And we're back for another casual conversation with the classic, and today we are here with wrestler, writer, one of the great minds of professional wrestling, the Zombie Princess himself, Jimmy Jacobs. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for chatting with me. I need a break from all the work I've been doing to have communication with people, albeit digital, but it's good.
Something different to mix it up, right?
Yeah. Definitely. But taking a whole step forward, last time you and I spoke, it was, I think, last September, and it was 2020. Some things changed, but some things remain the same. So I wanted to ask, like, how has 2021 been for you compared to 2020?
Yeah, I mean, look, 2020 was, I know it was hard for a lot of people. 2020 was one of the best years of my life. I mean, no doubt about it. I moved to Phoenix, and I came here like right in the middle of March. So everything is just shut down. And so I didn't know anybody, and I'm just here by myself. And it was great. It was great to have that time with me. And 2021 is, thus far has been good, man. There's the amount of growth and change and perspective in my world has, over the past 4 years, the past year or so, has just been absolutely profound. So it's always a fun learning experience, this thing we're in right now. So I'm just doing that.
And I want to bring that up because I actually believe that too. I think 2020 was hard for a lot of people, especially while we're in it. But I think now everyone in 2021 kind of looking back was like, oh, I kind of needed that to put things in perspective and grow. A lot of people had a lot of things stripped away from them, and they had to start fresh and then learn how to start fresh without what they were used to. And I think it was a really, really great experience for everybody. Did you find that for yourself as well?
Well, I don't know if it was a great experience for everybody.
That's true.
Our friends to the north in Canada, I've got buddies up there, and it's just absolutely brutal up there.
He's in Ontario. I'm in Vancouver. We know.
Yeah. Oh, you guys are both in Canada. So
we're both in Canada.
The overreach of the government is just it's. I don't know if any of us expected we would see something like this in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And whatever you believe is going on, a reasonable mind has to mediate the balance between safety and freedom, right? In the sphere of chaos and order, these are two components of it. That's how I view it, at least. Freedom being in the part of chaos, and in safety being in the realm of order. And so you have to mediate those two things. You have to find the balance. You have to find the Tao, and to see the danger. You'd have to be blind not to see the danger in what's going on from a control from above that is saying, no, you have to live like this. You can't do this. You're not allowed to do this. You go, okay, maybe freedoms aren't absolute, but you seem to be pushing it in the realm too far, in the realm of order, which leads to authoritarian rule. And I would argue that has happened, is happening in Canada, certainly, and there's been plenty of government overreach just from my perspective. And again, you can say whatever you want about what you think is going on many different levels, because there are a lot of levels to this. But you have to come to the table of mediation to say, okay, this is a danger, and we need to be aware of things getting too much order and too much chaos. How much freedom do we have in compared to how much sort of safety do we need, and how much do we need that to be implemented by force from above? Okay. The true morality is in my estimation, is when the order comes from within, that I am able to act, have right action because I know that's the moral thing to do, not because somebody at gunpoint, literally at gunpoint, that's what all laws come down to. Somebody with a gun is going to enforce that. And so it's dangerous. All that to say, I'm not sure it's been great for everybody, but it's a learning experience. We're seeing how much we will tolerate. We'll see, where our fears lie. A lot of what's going on now comes down to, things like fear of death. And so we try to, and look, again, it's safety, or it's order and chaos. Safety and freedom, I think, are two components of those things. And so it isn't to say just go and do the dumbest things possible and whatever, but it is to say, how are we living? Are we living in this bubble, hiding in our houses because we're all scared of the unknown? We're all scared of what happens on the other side, and that's something that we all should start to come to terms with. Find the thing deep inside of us, and find that thing. They go, where is this? Where is this fear? Why I'm afraid to die? Does that mean I'm then also in turn afraid to live? We're also seeing, the relationship with authority, which is, in my estimation, a lot of what's going on here. There are certain people that are, rebelling against the authority. There are certain people that are just complying to the authority. They throw words out like, follow the science. And really what they mean by that is they're conflating science, which is a discovery method, which with a mainstream scientific narrative, which are not the same thing. But to have that faith in a system to go, well, what they say, that goes because they're the authority of it. And in my estimation, that there's a lot of parental issues, with authority, where we see, the government as our parents, or the scientific community as our parents. We go, well, what they say goes, so I need to obey. I need to follow.
A lot of skepticism.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's very, and just, this is just my perspective.
Yeah.
Very tied into as a collective, learning to grow up and go, well, that's what these people say. What about these people? And what about these people? And understanding at the end of it, you are the ultimate decider. And so you can decide to go, I'm not going to think about things. I'm just going to trust. I'm going to trust this over here. And fair enough, man. Fair enough. We got a lot of great things in our society. So it makes sense to go, yeah, I'm going to follow them because that's what I'm putting my faith into. But it also is a time where people have gone, wait a minute, what is all this stuff they're saying? Well, maybe some of this stuff doesn't add up. And wait, who can I trust? Can I trust anything? And then you go online and you find some things that say something different, but it's like, are you just going to listen to some guy on YouTube? And all of a sudden you just you realize that no matter what, you are the ultimate decider. And that's a scary thing for people. It's a scary thing. It's much easier to go, Mom and Dad have us. Mom and Dad are.
Would you say, like, freedom, in a sense, in your perspective, freedom might be having the ability to be your own decider rather than listening, like making.
You are your own decider.
Yeah.
People need to realize that there's no way that you can outsource your free will choices to and so you realize that you are the decider of your world. It is you. And it might be nice to be so sure that somebody else has got it. Like, they're going to take care of this, and they'll take care of our health, and they'll take care of, whatever, they're going to protect us. And it might feel nice, but that in essence is the child inside of you that wants mom and dad to take care of you. But guess what? It's you, and it's always been you. And I think this whole experience is a growth in consciousness. I think this is how consciousness raises itself, to make people aware that they are the deciders, and to stop outsourcing personal responsibility and your free will choices to something else, and go, okay, you know what? It might be scary. I might got to put on my big boy pants, but how do I become the arbiter of my own life, the protector of it, the decider of it, where I don't have to rely so much on what's going on here and what's going on here and what this person is saying. Because look, everybody's saying different things.
Yeah.
You can start to realize is that I can find an expert that will tell me whatever I want to hear, anything. I can find an expert that will, that confirmation bias that agrees with how I perceive reality. So you can't outsource your responsibility or the way you think to somebody else, because you realize that everybody else just thinks different. So how am I going to walk through this world in a way, that I put my unique, imprint into the world, the thing that I want to put out in the world, not out of fear, not out of, hate or divisiveness, but how do I come to the table with the values that I want to use to create the world? How do I walk through the world with unity and with love and compassion and acceptance for other people, while holding true to my own truth?
I really liked your analogy of parent as authority and as being children. Good. That is something I was thinking about as you were speaking. Like, that's true, because when we're children, we feel like our parents know everything. They have all the right decisions. They figured it all out. But the more we become adults, we start seeing them as like, oh, they're humans too. Oh, and when they were my age, they had me as a kid. I don't even have a kid yet. I don't even know how they did that. And you start seeing them in a different way. And I think with authority, when it comes in government and whatnot, sometimes we feel like we have that same parental vision of them, those blinders of like, they got our best interests in mind, they got our safety in mind. But maybe we got to look at it the same way, like, oh, just like our parents, they're just humans too, and they're hearing and they're getting the voices coming at them.
There's a model that this doctor that I really like, Kelly Brogan, put forward. Do you know Kelly?
No, I don't know, but I'm gonna look them up after this.
Her model about is the maturation process is first. You have idealization, where you see, the authority is like, oh, there's everything and they know it, they got it all covered. And then there's after that is sort of the break in trust, where you realize, like, wait a minute, they're not perfect. And then the third step is vilification, and this it plays out in childhood too. You work with your parents, and then all of a sudden. You as you start to grow up, you maybe have some resentment towards them, and then in your teenage years, you're like, oh, mom and dad are just trying to oppress me, and they're trying to, they don't know what's best. F mom and dad. And then at some point, you break away from that, and the final step is sovereignty, realizing that there's nobody above you, there's no ideal parent, there's no villain that's trying to oppress you. It's just you. You are the adult here. You are the grown up, and coming into that space as the sovereign warrior king of your reality, and realizing that, look, everybody's doing their own thing, and I can choose to care about what this person thinks or listen to this person. But ultimately, I am the sovereign being here. I am the one that's responsible, and there is no parent, and there is no authority in your life over you. And I want people to realize that, because that is how it works.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it comes down to you, and what you want to go, what direction you want to go. No one's going to tell you what to do, right? And I love that Lenin quote, reality leaves a lot to the imagination, because it is what you make it.
It is your choice. You can listen to somebody, but you realize, when people say, I have to do this or I have to do this, like,
really? Yeah.
I mean, those things you probably shouldn't do, because they're, might get you in trouble, but you don't have to not do it.
Right. And do those things and get in trouble and suffer consequences.
Yeah.
That's part of
your decision.
Part of your experience in this reality is when you stray from alignment with natural law, you will suffer the karmic consequences. That is undoubted. And as a collective, we suffer the karmic consequences for the morality of our collective, of our society as a whole, and we suffer that. And so, but that's part of the experience. The question is, how much do you need to suffer before you get in alignment with the laws of this universe? and those laws would be something like morality, and we see it. We experience that.
No, 100%.
100%. Yeah, I think perspective is really everything. Like, I think I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and that PJ Black episode always gets me. I think it's so good, right? Like, wait, why don't you?
I miss your podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
What
So
happened to it?
I'm going to I'm going to start something back up again.
The conversations with PJ Black, Sami Zayn, like they're all just so good.
So good. Yeah.
And now things have gotten. Part of me wishes I would have just kept going with it over this year, because I've grown so much. Part of it's a little scary. Like, even as I talk now, it's like, you don't know who's going to interpret what as, oh, I'm offended by this, and oh, he's saying this, and reading into it, or even if I am saying something and getting offended by it, or even part of the reason that the podcast is called Jimmy Jacobs Doesn't Know is because, like, my starting place in life is my view of reality is inaccurate and incomplete. And once I just sort of let go the need to be right, I can explore so much of reality. But with that, it's like, of course I'm going to make mistakes. Of course, what I'm saying, everything I'm saying now is just my perspective as a person trying to, learn and grow and figure my way through this experience that we're all having. And so, of course, like, I'm going to say something that is just, it's maybe wrong, maybe it's just completely off base, and even if it is right on base, people are going to be upset by what I have to say, and so it's a little frightening to go out in the public sphere with the climate now, and how careful everybody needs to be with with their words. And look, when you're talking about anything important, you run the risk of people being offended, because important things, people have very strong beliefs on. And so it's become difficult to be in the public sphere and navigate the landmines. But perhaps it's fine. Perhaps you just go and you step on the landmine and blow up, and realize once you blow up, you're still fine. And keep walking through life.
I think I understand, because I do think life is a series of experiences, and you're always learning and you're always growing. And I know there's probably stuff I said on one of my podcasts back in the day that I probably said with so much conviction and belief that I don't even believe in anymore, because I've grown and I've learned. And I'm like, oh, if someone hears that, they're going to think I feel that way. But I don't even feel that way anymore. I think that's wrong. And I feel that same way when it comes to things that might not be as important as, like, life and serious political topics. Like, even with wrestling, like, I go on a limb all the time saying, like, I'm a wrestling fan, but the only thing I know about wrestling is I know nothing at all. But I have opinions and I have thoughts, but that's it. Like, I don't know anything. I don't work there or work back there. I have thoughts and opinions, because I don't want anyone to ever think, like, I think I know everything and I'm saying it like you need to believe me. Like, no, I'm saying how I feel right now in this very moment, with how I feel at this particular time. 4 or 5 years from now, I might feel completely different, because I'm going to go through some experiences, learn some new things, and continue to grow. And so I totally understand that.
Man, it's really wild. Yeah, I thought about this a couple of weeks ago, how being right and being wrong feel exactly the same. Yeah. Because in both times you feel like you're right. Like, look, I used to, like, okay, let's say not believe in aliens, right? And now I believe in aliens.
Yeah.
And it both felt the same. It's like, yeah, there's no aliens. Yeah, there are aliens. I both feel like I'm right when I'm saying that. And so, it's impossible to sort of navigate those things. So you go, the best thing you can do is come from it from a place of humility and of course, a place of compassion. I think people need to listen to other people with compassion. Our ego, this thing that we have, this ego, how basically our model of ourselves and our model of the world, right? The ego is the construction that we sort of put together of reality of ourselves. And part of the mechanism of the ego is to, let's say, keep you safe. And its idea of safe is to keep you familiar. So the ego does everything it can to, once you have your beliefs, sort of close in your beliefs, confirmation bias, let's say, close in your beliefs with some walls and go, great, this is reality and I understand reality. And so if I hear something that doesn't fit my model of reality, the ego doesn't like, it'll deflect off me. And if it really sort of hits a spot, maybe I'll even, get mad at you. I'll be like, F you, that's not how things are. You're not allowed to say that. That's dangerous that you would say that. You're this, and I'll start having all these defense mechanisms, because the ego is just trying to do its job to protect me and my view of the world. Because if I realize my view of the world, if my map of reality, if the model I've created in my head that I live off of, if that's wrong, that means I'm lost. That means I don't know what's going on.
You're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. I mean, I had my model of reality collapse multiple times over the last 4 years. I used to think that I was just Chris and I live in a physical world, and the physical world is this is the fundamental level of reality, and this is kind of maybe it, and who knows, but I'm Chris in the physical world. And that's it. That's what I thought. And now I just laugh at that and go, oh, that's so funny. Because to me now, obviously that's not true. To me, I've been deep enough inside of me to have met the thing inside of me, which is the thing inside of you, which is the thing inside of all of us. I've had that, that Gnostic experience, the experience of knowing. And, it's a complete flip upside down. It's a complete flip upside down to go, oh, this isn't a physical world. We're just, it's actually more something like our consciousness experiencing physicality. That's actually more of what's going on here. And Chris, the character of Chris is once put under scrutiny, falls away. That it's just a character that I've created, and there's something underneath this character that is, unchangeable, that is infinite, that is, immortal, so to speak. And I know that because I've had that experience. But if you haven't had that experience, you go, oh yeah, that guy's just he's just saying things to comfort him, or he's just saying this, and this is all an accident. That nothing, this something came from nothing. Oh, the laws of the universe, the physical laws they're just an accident. It's like, not only do we live in a universe, in this world, but there is order to it. Somehow we came about to it. There are laws of physics that we can look at, and you go, oh yeah, oh no, it's all just an accident. It's like, yeah, sure. There's no
accident. Yeah.
But if that's what you believe, it doesn't matter what I say. If you're not open, if you are open, things can move in. But if
I
you're
feel
not
like there's so much we can talk about, and I'm about to dive into religion and stuff, and I don't think we should go there on the air. No, let me tell you about law and order and religion and guidelines in this whole situation. But we should probably turn a little bit into the wrestling. I love this. I wish I could talk to you. Hopefully we get to meet in person soon, because this could have kept going. But Daniel, you can take it later. Yeah.
For hours.
I'm like feeling something. I'm like, oh man, there's so much shit I want to talk about. Like,
no, it's funny.
This is the stuff I love. This is the stuff I love. The journey of self-discovery is the most fulfilling journey I think anybody can have. Certainly, me personally.
And to your point, no one would know that experience until they go through that experience, so they'll talk down upon it. But then when it happens to them, they're like, "Oh, I get it." And sometimes it happens in people's lives. Maybe it's a loss, maybe it's an accident, maybe it's an addiction. There's always something that goes, because everyone goes through obstacles, and there's always something that opens your eyes to like, "Oh, there's more to all of this." You gotta sometimes hit rock bottom, or even if it's not like financially or something, like mentally hit rock bottom or something, for you to realize shit could be a lot worse. There's more to this, Yeah,
I mean, that's what happened with me. 4 years ago, today I was in rehab, and that place gave me the perspective and distance just enough to go, yeah, maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know, actually. Maybe I don't know at all. And all I did was open myself up to the possibility. I didn't get out of rehab trying to, completely turn my world upside down. I was just trying to
Figure it out.
Live without drugs. That's about it. And but with that openness, it's almost as if the universe says, oh, great, now he's open. Now he's ready. And just starts putting clues in. And if once I started following the clues, I go, wait a minute, what is going on?
It's just the game of life. Yeah. It's just, you are the universe experiences as itself. And I think when it comes down to it, like you said it best, man, I think there are characters in our lifetime that we make up in our head. And I think perspective is like, for example, I don't know if you watched Fight Club, but the entire time, like,
great movie.
Yeah.
But like, you know, there are characters that we make up, but like, I don't, you know, it's just crazy to think about sometimes. But I think going through enough trauma at the end of the day does hit you at some time. I think it is a place for self-growth, and you can always get better at the end of the day.
Television and movies are great examples because they write you into these different universes where you start seeing things at these different perspectives, and you're like rooting for the bad guys, like in Sons of Anarchy, without remembering that you're rooting for the bad guys. Like,
well, we start to realize that so much. Maybe all of this world is a perspective, and it's not to say there's no objective reality, but it is just, you know, you said it, man. We're the universe experiencing it itself, and the truth is that this is not the fundamental layer of reality. This is probably something like a simulation. Doesn't mean it's computer simulation. It could be that. But you know, I would say it's more like a dream, like a thought form simulation, perhaps. And we're all one thing. We're all one consciousness that sort of puts. It's like this. It's like on this level of reality, I'm a finger, and I think I'm a finger. And you go, yes, of course I'm a finger, and Daniel's a finger, and Steven, right? Steven. Was it?
Justin.
Steven, Justin.
Yeah, that's all good.
So, Justin's a finger, but really, if we pull back to a different level of consciousness, we realize actually we're the hand, we're the whole, we're this whole thing together, and you and I are just different prongs of the same being. And I would guess on a higher level of consciousness, we would experience ourselves as the arm, and above that, the torso. And then finally, the ultimate level of consciousness, the thing that we call, you know, God in a lot of ways, is the whole, is, oh, I'm not just this part of the finger. I'm not just the finger. I'm not just the hand. I am actually the whole, but I'm only experiencing, you know, the finger right now. And I would say that's a way to think about it. All we can really use are, I think, our metaphors, because we're talking about something that we have no real context for, like trying to describe the color red to somebody who's never seen before. So, but I would say it's probably something like that. It's amazing to me that we all walk through life and just go, yeah, we're just, you know, here we are. Blah, blah. And when you stop and go, wait a minute, what is going on here?
It's crazy.
I've thought of that before too. I'm like, what if like one day like I just wake up and everything else before that was the dream? That'd be so creepy. Or like, what if like when you die, then you wake up and it was the dream, and then you're back at it again? You're like, well, this is never ending. But you remember it for like maybe a minute, and then it's gone.
If I would have to take a guess, I would say it's similar to that. I would say that when you die, it's probably like waking up from a dream. You experience sort of a higher level of consciousness, and then you probably want to come back and do the ride again, or maybe you have to do the ride again. I don't know what deal was made.
And I had this conversation on a previous episode of this show with Caroline Sped, where I'm like, we started talking about, you know, resurrection stuff in the sense of like, I'm like, I have this weird like love for like vintagey old stuff, and like when I listen to an old song or something, I feel like there's a sense of familiarity there. But I'm like, I wasn't even alive when it came out, so it's like, are we like, you know, am I an old soul? Has my spirit lived multiple lives? Like, maybe because the fact that I got a John Lennon poster and the Beatles over there and like all this, I'm like, something's messed up here. Because why do I like this stuff so much? Like,
I would guess at this point that we've all done this. We've had an experience, many experiences.
Yeah.
That would be my guess, and I don't see. But it's difficult to conceptualize. on some ways, because when we're talking about you and me, it's like actually there is no you and me from a certain perspective. It's all one thing, and so it's like it's like, is there a soul that is me that has jumped from different times and come back here? But really, again, the soul I would say is probably something like the hand, and the hand is a part of the arm, the heart. So really, yes, man, we're the universe, we are God, we are infinite consciousness, having a point of view and experiencing different things, in order to grow. And I would suggest grow back. I call it the dismember remember game.
Yeah.
There is unity. There's unity consciousness. There is infinite unity consciousness, and it breaks itself off into infinite pieces. It dismembers itself, and then the pieces start to remember, which means to come back together. So you start to remember who you are, because that's part of this experience.
Yeah, think about it.
Obviously, it's like you come here and you have no recollection of anything before this. So you have what I would say is spiritual amnesia. You come, you go, well, crap. What am I doing here? I came here on a mission. I came here for some reason. What was it? And what, when you start to look into natural law, what the laws of the universe seem to be is to encourage you to act with morality, which is to say, to not trespass onto someone, do no harm to someone else, respect them in their free will journey. And as we have acceptance for other people's free will journey and do no harm to others, we start to live in a good way and in a positive way, and we're rewarded for that. We start to have love in our lives, and we start to create connections. Now, if I am to, perpetrate violence against somebody, if I am to not respect someone's free will, if I fight with everything around me, my experience is going to be worse. So it seems as though this experience is kind of corralling us into something that we call love, which I believe is the recognition that you and I are one and treating you as such.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I like that whole analogy that we come with amnesia and slowly start figuring ourselves out, because that's why I think it's like, why does this seem familiar to me? Or why do I seem to like this? And I've never heard it before.
That's where deja vu.
I really like this vibe of this ambiance environment that I'm in right now, and I don't know why. It's like maybe I've been here before, and it's like you don't know because you just don't know. Like
the truth is, it's like we really have. I don't want to say we have no idea what's going on. I think it's something around what I'm saying. I feel like I keep pointing in close to it, and sometimes I go on these tangents and I start to come back this way, but it's all very complex. At its base level, I would say we are infinite consciousness. We are having unique point of view experiences as part of one thing, and we're here to experience and through that experience grow. That would be I think a safe summation from my perspective. I don't know what sub games are. I don't know what exactly happens when you die. And
this isn't a scientific or religious conversation, guys. We're just talking about what might be. What might be.
Yeah, well, something is. And to start from that, it's like something is. And when people make the case that there's nothing else, it's like what this something came from nothing. And I've heard that argument made. And it's like, again, you can make that argument, which seems a little crazy. And look, but this world is crazy, so fine. Yeah. But that it also has the order that it does. The fact that we're sitting here talking, it's like, yeah, man, something put this together. That's all there is to it. And I think that's great. I love it.
No,
I love
same.
it.
Great.
Same.
Yeah. I think the process of it is just, it comes together beautifully. But switching gears in terms of the wrestling aspect, because I know
we're here, guys.
We're here for it, guys. Yeah. But man, I can't wait for your podcast to come back and having more guests and talking about like this entire topic, because I find it interesting. Like,
I was holding back. There's lots I would have said.
Oh, same, 100%. Just because we're on the air, I gotta hold back too. But I did want to talk about Danhausen, and he's been popping off on the internet because he's quote unquote on the internet darling now, just like Danhausen.
Danhausen.
Oh, Danhausen.
Danhausen, that's how you say. Look at us Canadians. We say
Dan Houston. I was like, I didn't know Danhausen. Danhausen. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, you trained him, but I did want to ask, how was how's it like training him and like developing his character? Because I know
where he's at now.
Yeah.
Well, look, he actually trained at Truth Martini School, and I was helping Truth out at the time. So it would probably be a leap to say that I trained. He was always a nice kid and a hardworking. But he kept good himself in good shape, took good care of himself. But pretty bland personality, which is interesting to say now. Because once he found his thing and went with it. It's really connected with a lot of people. I saw he's got T-shirts in Hot Topic even. It's like, good for him, man. Yeah. And that it just shows what you can do. If you keep going and you put one foot in front of the other. And I'm going to bring it back around to this sort of stuff, because that's a lot of what this experience is. It's like you pick something. And you have a vision of the future, let's say. You pick we can even say a goal. But once you pick a destination and you walk towards it. Yeah. And as long as you put one foot in front of the other, you're going to start to realize where the missteps are and where and how to aim properly. And he's a guy that did that even went outside of the box. And I tell this to wrestlers all the time is, try something. Like, just try something. It doesn't, and again, true to life, do something. Once you start to do something, it's like it might be difficult to do a sculpture, in your head and just take each piece of clay and mold it, properly. What you do is you take the glob of clay and you throw it down. And then the same thing with writing. When I was writing for WWE, so I would sit here in my head and try to think of something and try. Then eventually I realized, no, it's not what you do. You just start writing. And you start writing. And once you start writing, you're just going to put a bunch of stuff down. And once you have a bunch of stuff down, then you can go, okay, oh, this is good. Let's go with this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of it. Okay. And so you're building off of something. So kind of the more you just go out there and try whatever. You can always pull back. Yeah. But it's difficult to just, I'm just going to take this little tiny step and it's got to be perfect. No, just go out there, make a huge blunder and learn from the blunder.
And that's exactly what happened. Now I remember seeing him a little bit here and there. Now he's all over the place. I'm like, oh, this guy's popping off. So that's cool. And honestly, if you want to connect it all together from what we're talking about and bring it into the wrestling side, I love it. I'm with it. I think it's cool. Good. It makes the beginning of the conversation make sense with the rest of the conversation, and it puts everything together in a way that the wrestling fans will maybe understand. Now they're like, oh, that makes sense. So I love it. So don't feel free to do that. Don't have to say you're bringing it back. Just take it back. I was gonna ask for my behalf. So I listened to your interview with Danial before, and you didn't really talk much about what happened in 2017, the infamous Bullet Club picture that got you let go from the WWE at that time and whatnot. I don't want to dive into that because it's been talked about. We know what happened. If you don't know what happened, you can Google it. But more just like looking back now, because I'm a big believer in, really bad things will happen to me, whether it's breakups, family stuff, and it sucks in the moment. And then I'm always like, but it's crazy. It doesn't matter how, it doesn't, people might hate me with this. I think it doesn't matter how bad the situation, someone could die. It doesn't matter how bad the negative situation in their life is. when you look back, whether it's months later, years later, weeks later, you'll look at it and be like, oh, I like that helped me grow in some sort of way. Like, do you look back to that and see that as a blessing in disguise now, in a sense?
This is why I don't believe in hell, because I don't believe in an irredeemable negativity. I don't believe that's how it works. I believe it's all kind of like this cycle. It's you go from good to bad, bad to good, right? So the negative is really all that to say is the negative pushes us towards a positive once we choose to use that information to allow us to go there. As far as being fired from WWE, I saw that as I never saw that as negative.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there was ever a moment. It was surreal. I remember when the day I went into work and they're like, hey, Dave wants to see you up in HR. I'm like, oh, wow. I was like, here it is. And I remember that surreal feeling. There was probably a little bit of resentment because, I didn't like working for Vince. So I had probably a little bit of resentment, leaving, but not getting fired. As soon as I got fired, it was excitement. It was, free from the self-imposed chains that I felt like I was in there. I don't mean the WWE's a prison. I mean self-imposed. When you know that, for about 6 months, I knew WWE wasn't a good fit for me anymore. And I was too scared to make the jump because you go, I haven't worked my whole life to get here. What happens after? And this fear of the unknown was there. I remember a month after I got fired, I was having the time of my life. I was like hot on the indies for like 15 minutes. It was hot. And I was having the time of my life. And I just stopped and I just went, man, how long would I have stayed in WWE if I hadn't been fired? And I went, my whole life. I'd have been there another 10 years, just miserable. And it was such a gift from the universe. It was such a learning lesson to go, hey, look at what you were scared of. This is awesome. There's nothing to fear on the other side of the unknown. You just, and that's something, that's a lesson that I try to keep with me when I go, well, what's going to happen here? And what if I do this? And what about, and go, hey, man, there's nothing to fear. Whatever
you let yourself out there now.
Whatever comes out there on the other side, and especially if it's something that is through the adoption of truth, it's like, something, if it's no longer true for me or in alignment for me to, let's say work in wrestling anymore, I go, well, then that needs to fade away. And whatever's on the other side will be something that is born out of the alignment with truth. So there's nothing to fear. There might be experiences that are uncomfortable. There might be experiences that you can label as negative, but ultimately it's all just experiences.
100%.
Yeah.
And now that you've experienced that, like moving forward, if you ever feel burnt out or mentally shackled, you'll be like, you know what? I'm just going to let myself go. I don't know what's going to happen, but I've done it before and it wasn't that bad.
Well, the universe kind of did it for me, or I did it for me.
Well, it happened before and it wasn't. You had the experience.
But I mean, that's, it's a lesson that has certainly stuck with me. And look, I'm not saying I always act on that. That would be far from true. But it's good to have in my deepest knowing, to have that understanding that, man, it's nothing to fear. No matter what happens in this world, no matter where things go from here, no matter how much I might not like something, no matter how uncomfortable it gets, there's nothing to fear.
For sure.
Yeah, I think everything does happen for a reason. Like that entire whole event happened for a reason to lead you to this very moment, right? Because it's a chain of events that lead you on to the next and the next, and then back to what we were talking about. But I did want to talk about going back to the WWE. When I interviewed you back in September, I talked about the List of Jericho and how that came together. But are there any other storyline ideas that you wish that happened but didn't make it to TV?
I have no recollection. Part of the the job there is you're doing 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour of 205 Live, an hour of NXT, pay-per-view once a month, and so you're just churning out products, right? You're just churning out content. And it's you learn to not be married to any of your ideas, and it's a content factory, really. And if you get some good stuff that comes out, great. But a lot of times it's like, well, that's what it was, and now on to tomorrow. So I don't have any recollection of any time that I was like, oh man, we should have done that story, and that would have been the thing, because it's just you're doing so much. You go, okay, well, that's not it. Okay, well, how about this? How about this? Well, how about this? How about this? Okay, let's do this. That's it.
And for anyone that hasn't, go check out Jimmy Jacobs' interview with the Dropkick Podcast. They did go in depth in his involvement in the whole List of Jericho storyline and all of that, of Jericho's great run in 2016 and 17 and all of that. So check that out. But I did read an interview you did recently, maybe not recently, maybe it was like in the end of 2020, and it's just something I kind of believe in, so I wanted to pick your brain on it, and because I agreed with it a lot, is where a lot of people tend to blame the writers for everything. When I always say myself, because I've been fortunate enough to be friends with some people that have worked there, Kazim's someone that recently worked there who I have a good relationship with. And I'm like, these guys are smart. They're not like, I don't know what people think the writing room is, but they're not just a bunch of idiots sitting there with bad ideas. Like, I think you guys, they have great ideas. It's just what actually is able to pass that, acceptance checkmark level of actually being something that they want to do. Because at the end of the day, we heard a lot in the other podcasts with people that work in the WWE where it's like it's an audience of one. So just wondering if you could elaborate on that. Like, how do you feel when it comes to like the internet and the way they react to like, oh, they're blaming the writers? So I'm like, I know a lot of writers that are really smart and they're on social media. So if you think you're really smart, trust me, they're reading your ideas too. Like, they're not stupid. Like,
Yeah, man. Look, it took me about an hour or two of being in the writing room for the first time to go, oh, everybody here is really smart. And they are. And everybody's got their own talents and they're good at their own things. There's two things. One, it's difficult writing a wrestling show, especially Raw at 3 hours every week. Doing something for 3 hours every week is a beast. I do Impact Wrestling Thursday nights on Access TV at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it's 2 hours. And look, man, that can be a challenge. And you got, let's say, 10 stories going on at once, and it's like, geez, there's only so many ways to skin a cat, and what can you do in the confines of this little ring that you have, and how many times can one guy jump another guy? And so it's you have a finite number of players, a finite number of matches, and a lot of content to fill. So it's difficult to do. Look, that's not to say that that's an excuse for it being bad. That's to say, even with really smart people, it's not always going to be good. Okay. But then you have Vince, and that's just the X factor. And so you are playing to an audience of one. It's like we're trying to make the best show possible, but actually we're trying to make the best show possible that Vince won't yell at us for suggesting and trying to do. And look, man, just the way that Vince does things, he's got certain preferences. So you're going to, storylines aren't really going to necessarily be cohesive from 1 week to the next, because that's the way the shows are written. They're written 1 week and then the next week. And Vince kind of is like, I didn't see last week. Yeah, Vince is going to blow up a lot of ideas, and that's fine. He gets to do that. It's his sandbox. You're just playing it. But look, man, so Vince makes the whole thing an already hard job even harder. And not to, not give him any credit, because obviously the man deserves all the credit in the world.
Everybody has a flaw.
It's hard, and mostly what I see is people complaining about things happening, and it's like, all right, you've got Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins. Like, oh, geez, I don't want to do that. I don't want to see that match. I don't want to do that match. It's like, yeah, fair enough, man. But here's the thing: wrestling shows, like reality, are not created in the negative. I can't say for segments 9 and 10, not Baron Corbin versus Seth Rollins. I have to put something down. And again, you have a finite number of things. And you go, okay, well, maybe they don't like that match right now. How do we get them to like that match? And how do we tell a story where hopefully they care about the match, but maybe they don't care about the character? So it's difficult. It's difficult because you can't just say what you don't like. It's like, yeah, okay, fine. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. Don't want to do this. But we have to do something. It's just like reality. I can say, oh, I don't want fighting and I don't want hate. But it's like, that's not how you create the reality you want. Mm-hmm. You create the reality you want by saying, okay, maybe I don't want fighting. So the reality I will work towards creating is unity. Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't want hate. The reality I work to create is out of love. I can't fighting with fighting. I can't fight hate with fighting. Yeah. That's not how it works. That just perpetuates the negativity. So it's not the easiest job, but I do enjoy doing it.
No, to wrap up the WWE part of it, though, a question that I'm sure I kind of already grasped the answer of, but would you ever work in the WWE again in a writing position? Is that something you would do? Would you work with Vince again?
I would work for Hunter down at the PC. Mm-hmm. I would love to go down there at some point in my life and do promo classes with.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. I think that's where I excel the most.
Well, I'm a longtime fan. I've been watching since the Ring of Honor days of Age of the Fall and all of that. So I know you're a great promo.
As far as working for Vince goes, it would take a lot of money. Like I've got a number where if they were like, hey, it's we'll pay you X amount of dollars to come back, I would. They're not going to, so I'll never have to deal with that day. But I have a number that I would sort of do it for.
A number of tolerance.
And I'm in a better place now where it's like, yeah, Vince can act however he wants. Everything's fine. It's fine that if Vince wants to act this way or do this, it's like, has nothing to do with me. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to have a healthy, centered disposition to be a writer and not hate your life. Yeah. Ed Koskey, who's been there for a lot of years, who I have a ton of respect for, who's maybe he's the lead writer of SmackDown now. He's the lead writer of Raw for a very long time. Ed is brilliant. He's super creative, super smart. But the thing I admired most about him was his grace and poise. He understood, when Vince got the way that Vince would get, he just understood how to take it and not take it like, oh, I'm a piece of shit, so I guess I'm going to take your abuse. Yeah. But understand that everything coming at him, it's like, it's fine. Yeah. Rolls right off of him. So a lot of admiration for that.
He understood. He understood it for the game.
Yeah. You just got to roll with the punches at the end of the day and, know your worth. And I think that's what you did. And, it was I think when you were there personally, that's when I enjoyed WWE, like the main roster stuff. And it, like, you went there first in 2015, right?
2000, yes, correct.
And then 17, yeah, like that was one of the most fun times I had watching like WWE, and like thank you for making it what it was. But
it was a team of guys, and
being a part of that effort, we appreciate it.
Vince too. You're gonna blame the guy for the bad stuff. You got to give him credit for the good stuff.
I say that all the time. I'm like, everything we love and hate, if it comes from the WWE, it comes through Vince. Those characters you loved in the Attitude Era also came through Vince. Those characters you hate currently also came through Vince. So what do you hate and what do you love, right? So,
no, absolutely. Yeah. But I did want to ask, like, writing for WWE and also wrestling on the indies, like, did having a wrestling background help with your transition into writing?
Yeah, well, certainly I had a certain aptitude for the storytelling nature of wrestling. I was the first, wrestler to really be a writer there. There were other guys on the creative team, like, let's say Road Dogg or something, but he's not getting into the weeds like writers get into the weeds, like putting pen to paper. And so I was the first one to do that. Now, look, it helped I knew a lot of the guys. I was friends with a lot of the guys, and they trusted me. which is helpful. It's helpful to have a relationship with the talent where, they want to collaborate with you and they want your ideas as well. Mm-hmm. I think it helped me. I think that Vince will never, ever, ever hire another independent wrestler to be on the writing team again after I got fired. So it goes.
But to that point, like, you're writing for Impact now, and that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how it's like writing for Impact compared to WWE. But just after what you just said, working with a lot of your friends, is a second question that I kind of just thought of. Obviously, nowadays we're in the era, and you know this better than we do, so I'm just, in a sense, assuming, where what the promos the wrestlers say, especially in the WWE, are very scripted to the T, almost in a sense. Did you think because you were working with your friends and you understood their characters and how they sound because you've worked with them for so many years, that it was easier for you to write promos for guys like that? Or is it better when they have more hand in it, being like, I would say that like this?
When they have a hand in it. It's always better. To me, the less work I have to do, the better. It's like the more you understand your character, the better. Because that's
the biggest thing, is understanding the character and how they would talk, right?
I'm never going to be you better than you.
Yeah, 100%. That's how I believe it. So I'm like, when they say the script promos for word, I'm like, how do you do that for someone?
Yeah, and look, it's not to say writers can't be great and come up with great stuff for talent, whether that's wrestling or whether that's in a movie. It's not to say that every actor is the best writer, but in wrestling, it's certainly it's your character, and so it's a part of you. It's the thing that's inside of you that you are really that's what connects you to people, right? This thing inside of you. And then you're just really trying to figure out a package and a way to sort of synthesize your personality and your traits to connect with people. Look, some of this stuff in WWE was certainly over-scripted. Most of the talent I worked with, I was able to co-collaborate things with them. Sometimes Vince ruled with an iron fist and said, no, they're saying this, and that's fine. But look, with a lot of guys, like, they want you to write something for them. Like, when you have, look, if you have a 16-minute Seg 1 promo with, 5 different characters, you can't just go, yeah, guys, say something here. It's like, no, you have to work that out. And when you're doing that every single week, these characters that, kick off Raw with, Seg 1 promo, they're out there every single week doing it. It's like, yeah, man, give me some help. Give me what you got. Now, that doesn't mean I want to use your exact words. And I think that's something where Vince gets, in the realm, again, of order and chaos, Vince gets too much on the side of order, and it micromanages the words too much. If you can give me an outline, or give me the words, but let me take the words and put myself into it. Say it kind of how I want to say it. But look, Vince does that for a reason. Vince wants the words to go through him. He's got all these sponsors now, and he doesn't want to lose a sponsor because Ric Flair, says, I'll make you bleed like a virgin off the top. It's like those days are gone for Vince. Mm-hmm. So he's protective of what comes out of people's mouths, and he's protective of his vision too. And sometimes really so, but that's his right as the king of that castle.
100%. I just always figured, I'm like, because obviously the best promos are the ones where even like you said, like if you give them something, they can put it in their own words with their own character. Like that's the best, And I just wondered, like, how much do the writers work with the wrestlers with this, or how much do they just give them something and expect them to say? Like, I guess it depends on the writer and the relationships and whatnot and all of that.
It depends on the talent mostly. Look, John Cena is going to say whatever he wants. And look, and John will sit down with you, and basically you come to Raw with a script already done.
Yeah.
And, with some of the talent, they're going to end up, they're on the end of the totem pole where they're going to say what's in the script. You can try to change it, and Vince might say yes, he might say no. With John Cena is going to read the script, and he's going to take that as, okay, this is kind of the idea they want from me. This is kind of the story they want to tell. Okay, great. And then he's going to move all that aside, and then you and John are going to sit down and write what John's going to say. And Vince is most likely going to
be okay with it.
Be okay with it word for word. Every once in a while, it's be like, "Oh, don't have him say this." But mostly, it was fine.
Biggest difference writing for Impact compared to WWE now that you have this freedom and Impact.
I mean, freedom is the word one word I would say. It's like in WWE, everybody is playing the game to not lose. It's like, I just don't want to get yelled at by Vince. I just don't want to get fired by Vince. I don't want him to go, God, this kid doesn't get it. So you're just trying to create in that, as good as you can, but more important than being good is just Vince will accept it. That's really the bar. So you're playing not to lose. In Impact, look, the downside is we have less of an audience, certainly. But the good side is, like, I can try something, and I don't need the approval of Vince to go and try something, especially something menial. Like, I remember early on, I was doing something with Matt Sydal, and he was kind of doing like a guru yogi type character. Yeah. And so I had a thing where an interviewer was going to come and interview him, and he's down there meditating, and then he tells her to come sit down, and she sits down with him, and whatever. And she does the interview sitting next to him. And I remember doing that and thinking, like, God, if this was in WWE, what a hassle it would be for me to get that approved, for Vince to agree to do that. Because, look, everything bottlenecks through Vince. So if you want something changed, it's like, is Vince going to see this in time? What is he going to think about this? It's like, and then you just go, yeah, it's all right. But at Impact, I can go, all right, cool, I'm going to try this. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it's like, hey, man. I was like, yeah, it didn't work. And then you move on. Then you have that freedom to sort of fail or succeed, but certainly try to succeed, as opposed to just going like, yeah, let's just get by without getting yelled at. Let's get by without getting fired. Let's get by so Vince stays in a good mood.
For sure,
yeah. But I did want to ask, like, now you're working for Impact and you're killing it on the creative team and in that aspect. But, like, as a fan, like, I did want to ask, like, are we going to see you in the ring in some sort of way?
Probably not at Impact. I've got a lot of my plate there. I do love performing. I still take bookings when somebody wants me to put on the tights. I'll put them on. I freaking love performing. This past year there weren't a ton of shows, and I only did a few shows. But yeah, man, I still love performing. I still love just going out there and playing a character, the different character I play in real life. And look, if I'll say this, if there was ever a spot at Impact where I thought, yeah, you know what, I'd be good for this, I would say it. But I just, mostly that doesn't come up. If there was somebody that was like really good to manage, they need like a good mouthpiece, and be like, yeah, you know what, maybe that would work, and I'd go for it. But my plate is full enough as it is, but I always like
one of those never say never situations. Moving forward really quickly, this whole AEW Impact relationship.
Yeah.
How is it? How do you feel about it? How has it benefited Impact in your mind? And has it benefited you as a writer for Impact? Has it allowed you to get more creative with these pieces you might be able to use over there?
Well, it's certainly benefited us, right? I think we had a good win last year at Slammiversary when WWE released all those talents. We were able to pick up, basically who we wanted, which was really awesome. We got the Good Brothers and Keith and
Brian Myers,
Brian Myers, Eric Young. Yeah, we ended up getting Matt a little bit later. We got EC3 for a short run, which was cool, and Alex Shelley came back around that time. So I think we had a good win at Slammiversary. I think this AEW thing is just sort of another good win, which I think our company has needed. When I came on in 3.5 years ago in 2017, it was on a downswing. It was embarrassing to be a TNA fan. And the first year being there was just kind of like, hey guys, let's just make a show that people don't feel embarrassed to watch. That it's just like, hey, that was good. These guys are good. This doesn't insult my intelligence. We promote something and we deliver on it. These sort of very simple things to regain the trust of the audience, regain the trust of the wrestling industry. So this AEW working relationship, I think, shows people we're still on the board. We're still guys that are still playing. There's a product out here that's an alternative to what's going on out there. Look, I know there's NXT and there's Ring of Honor, and there is AEW and New Japan, which are all kind of these kind of sportsy pro wrestling, and we do something a little different. We do something fun, and we have this cohesive storytelling through every week, and you can follow a character arc, and sometimes we get zany. You can go into Wrestle House or the Undead Realm or
Wrestle House, yeah.
Wallace, and I think it reminds people that man, like Impact's doing stuff, and so when this sort of came across our plate, it's like, man, let's play, let's see what happens, let's see where this goes, and I don't know how long the relationship will go, how long it when it was first presented, it was going to be a shorter term deal than this, and so we're playing, we're seeing where it goes.
Are you involved in the process of like writing when it comes to like, say, Kenny coming to Impact and what he's going to do, or is that like a collaboration with AEW and you? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's so we've got a team of a few guys here at Impact, and we sort of say, hey, what if we do X, Y, Z, and Tony is down with it or is not, and I think I don't. I'm not on the level where I'm calling Tony and saying, hey, this is what we're thinking. Hey, what if we do this? But yeah, certainly I'm part of the process of, all right, what should Kenny do? He's a character on our show like any other character. It just sort of has to go through one more layer of somebody saying okay to it.
Yeah. Are we gonna get something similar around this year's Slammiversary, since we had another little bit of releases from the WWE?
I mean, it wasn't quite the level of releases that
was last year for sure.
Last year. But certainly, hey, when there's free agents and new conceivable players that we can put on our board, we're always looking to add new pieces.
Absolutely. Speaking of free agents, I don't know if you are caught up on SmackDown or whatever, but Daniel Bryan's contract recently expired, and he put his contract on the line against Roman Reigns, and he lost, obviously. So therefore, he's a free agent. But and he isn't planning to sign anywhere right now, because I know like he wants to slow down because of his neck injuries and stuff like that. But where do you see him going? Do you see him coming to Impact, or?
And coincidentally, his contract actually expired in like real life.
In real life, yeah.
Even though they did the storyline, so I was like, oh.
I only know what I've seen online. I haven't talked to Bryan about it.
But and you guys go way back, don't you?
We do, but how do you say this? He's not much of a communicator. He's pretty technology adverse, and I finally caught up with him maybe a month or two ago.
Yeah,
we got on the phone, and once we got on the phone, we were on the phone for like 2 hours talking about just everything. I love him, man. I miss him.
He's the man. Yeah.
I moved to Phoenix in March, and he was living here for a while, and then I finally hit him up. I was like, hey man, let's grab lunch. He's like, oh, I'm not living in Phoenix anymore. But look, man, who knows with Bryan? That's the thing. He's such an interesting guy that nothing would surprise me.
That's the way I feel too, because I'm like, I think automatic people are like, oh, he's gonna just sign back to WWE. Let's get real here. But it's like, but Bryan's always been that guy that's low key under the radar, even if he's getting in trouble for it, praising the other companies, praising Japan, praising him. Like he's going. I don't know if he's got that spot in the company now where he's just allowed to, but he's putting everybody else over. So it's like, he has this urge to. I feel like he's know him better than we know him, but I'm like, he's the type of guy that probably does want to go wrestle one more time in Japan and maybe pop up one more time in Ring of Honor or something. Like
nothing would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he moved on to a blueberry farm and never with the public world again. If if he hit me up and was like, hey, what's going on at Impact, that wouldn't surprise me. If he shows up at New Japan or Ring of Honor or AEW or all of them at the same time, if he goes, hey, let me see if I can work at a deal where I just work at every company all at once.
That's what I thought he was going to do. I'm like, maybe you can work WWE to let him work other places. Maybe he gets away with it. Who knows?
Just to do it. And look, if he just re-signs with WWE, it's like I'm sure whatever contract they put in front of him is worth a lot of money. I don't know his financial situation. I'm sure between him and his wife, it's pretty good. So I don't know how monetarily driven he is. I think he's a guy that wants to experience, and I know he loved working in front of no audience. So I was like, hey, you're working in front of no audience. Impact Wrestling is a place to be. So
I mean, there's certain places. Bryan, what was I gonna say? There's something about Bryan that just like he's one of those guys. That's what I was gonna say. There are guys obviously that when you see them, they're WWE guys. Like you think about John Cena, you're like, he's a WWE guy. Randy Orton's like a WWE guy. But there are certain guys that go to that company, and no matter how successful or long they've been there, I still see Daniel Bryan as that guy that came from the independents and rocked the WWE. That's who Daniel Bryan is to me. I see AJ Styles like guy that made his footprint and impact and all stuff, and then he rocked in the WWE. Like they'll never look like WWE guys to me. Like fully, it's almost as odd as it was seeing Hulk Hogan in WCW. Like he killed it there, but at the end of the day, Hulk Hogan's a WWF guy. Like that's what you knew, and
that's true.
That's why I think when it comes to Bryan, I'm like, he could end up anywhere. And on that note, like according to the Young Bucks' book, AJ Styles almost came back to Impact a couple of years ago before we signed with the WWE.
Yeah.
How close was he to that? Was that actually true? Or?
I mean, that was I remember hearing that at the time that it was, I don't remember the exact story, but it was very close to him. He'd gone to Ring of Honor and New Japan for a little bit, and it looked like they were going to wrap him up, and maybe Gallows and Anderson too.
All three of them had to resign with WWE at some point. And when it came to that point, Gallows and Anderson were in talks with AEW, but according to the Young Bucks in their book, AJ was very close to going back to TNA.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we got him for the Rumble. It was great.
Yeah. Lastly, I guess we'll wrap this up. The last question I have for you, and it's just more of a specific, not really specific, kind of general question, but for anyone that's listening to this, I got a lot of people that follow my page that have been interested in getting into the wrestling business, of course. A lot of people that follow my page that are now in the wrestling business, just killing it over the years, so it's like shout out to them. But if you had to give advice to anyone that wanted to get into the wrestling business, whether it was as a wrestler or even as a writer, maybe there's two separate answers there. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, they are two separate answers.
Yeah, I would figure, yeah.
For WWE, the best thing to do is finish college and or be a writer somewhere else. Just get some credits in your name. Write a freaking comic book, write a blog, write a novel, write a screenplay, do some spec scripts, whatever. Have some writing experience, have a college degree, and then that would be how to get into it. Send your resume and don't tell them I sent.
How about on the wrestling side, and not even like advice about how to get in there, but like what would you tell if you could go back? Let me put it this way: if you could go back and talk to younger Jimmy Jacobs, younger Chris, prior to like when you were getting into the wrestling industry, what would you tell him to be aware of, to be concerned about, or like just know this before you get into this? Is that a better way to phrase it?
It's the same thing as I would say to myself or anybody about life.
Yeah.
If I have one regret of my wrestling career, it's I didn't just enjoy it more. That's it. That like at the times when I was, the most featured in Ring of Honor, I was just miserable. I was probably miserable throughout so much of my career because I always thought, there's something else. So if I just get this, if I just get that, and that's how a lot of people think. And look, that sort of mentality can drive you to success if you keep, looking towards the next thing and go, well, you know, people on the indies, they just want to sign with WWE. And look, but once you sign with WWE and then you're in NXT, maybe you're at the PC first, and then you just want to be on NXT TV, and then you're on NXT TV, and then you want to be featured, then you're featured, and then once you're starting to work on top, then other guys are going to Raw and SmackDown. They're making big money. You go, why am I in NXT? I want to be on Raw and SmackDown. And then you go on Raw and SmackDown, and then you get pushed a little bit, and then you're like, oh, great, now I want to work all the pay-per-views. You work pay-per-view, but then you get pushed back, and then you wonder why, and you just go, well, if I just, you know, do this, and I just have this, and I just get this title, and you have that title. And then once you have the titles, you can be, you know, CM Punk and have the title for over a year and be miserable. You can work with The Undertaker at WrestleMania and be miserable about it because, you know, really what you want to do is go on last, be on all the events, and go on last at WrestleMania. And once you go on last at WrestleMania, it's like there's going to be something else. Then there's some sort of acting job you want, and you want to be in Hollywood, and you get this job, you don't get that job, you want this job. And it's like there's always something else.
Yeah,
there is.
Always.
There really is.
If you live your whole life wanting more, you will live your whole life wanting more. That's it. And this isn't to say don't have a vision of what you want for the future, but understand that the goal is not the goal. The goal is just a step, maybe a significant step, but it's just a step. You can be WWE champion and be freaking miserable. All the things you think you wanted out of life, you can have them all and be completely unhappy. There is nothing else. There is only you. All your feelings in this life, all your experiences, they emanate through you. So if you're waiting to, you know, once you get that contract to be happy, all you're doing is giving yourself a permission slip. You're going, okay, as soon as this happens, then I'll give myself the permission slip to be happy. But the happiness is coming through you. No external event makes you feel any sort of way. Everything comes from inside of you. And once you stop projecting that power externally, you can start to reclaim that power. And I can wake up this morning and be happy and grateful and feel awesome just because I'm alive. And I can do that just as easily as waiting until I'm WWE champion to feel that thing. So that's all. Just enjoy the moment.
Great answer. I love it. That was a great way to cap this off. Thank you so much for joining us again. You went on a social media blackout, so there's not. If you guys want to follow Jimmy Jacobs, watch Impact Wrestling. And,
you know, I've got jimmyjacobs.com. I don't particularly keep it, but it's got my contact and it's got my email address. If you feel inclined to drop me a line, it's got all the old podcasts that I did from 2019.
Yeah, definitely go check those out. Those are great, guys. And
that me from 2 years ago, trying to figure out, it's like, what is life and how should we be living it was kind of
those conversations will still be relevant to people going through those phases of their life right now as they listen to it. If they're in that point where they relate to that, what you guys are talking about at that time, they're like, oh, I get it. It's the way music works, right? A song could have came out in the goddamn 1940s. And if you listen, you're like, oh, I get that. That's cool. It's still relevant then. Yeah.
So that's it. And just, I want to let everybody know that the thing that they're looking for is them. The thing that you're looking for is you. So whatever it is that whatever problem you have going on in your life, the answer is inside of you. That's it.
Absolutely.
Realize that truth, and your life will become a whole lot easier.
And that's that. See you all next time. Ooh, yeah, dig it. And we're good. That's a wrap.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.